35 differences between Mario Kart World and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, starting first with how you hold your items. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, when you would get an item, it would spawn in and then you would either hold it in your hand or it would orbit around the player like a shell. But now in Mario Kart World, the way that this actually seems to work is that the items always spawn behind the cart, and they remain there, which not only helps to increase the visual clarity so you can see what's going on, but it also makes sense when you consider that some of the newcomer characters don't have any hands to hold items with. I think it's a little more accessible for Goomba is what I'm saying. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we had a glider that we could use to fly around with. It's pretty hard to miss, you'd have to decide it before picking the race. But now, in Mario Kart World, your vehicle actually pops out wings when gliding. And on top of that, there's also visible rudders that match your movement while you're flying through. In the past, when you got hit, you'd always spin out the exact same way. Whether it was a blue shell or a bomb, you would always spin out and land on your wheels the exact same way every time, wasting a lot of time while you're at it. But now in Mario Kart World, the way that it works is that you can actually spin out or roll over completely, which means that sometimes you could possibly land on your head, but on the times where you're landing just on your side, it actually could be faster coming out of this spin out than it could have in the past. One of the biggest things missing from Mario Kart World is the ability to drive underwater. And now with that gone, we actually get different flotation devices to keep us on top of the water surface, as opposed to the propeller when we swam underneath. One of the biggest things you'll notice that's missing from Mario Kart World is when you go to boot up a race, you no longer have to choose the kart's body, wheels, or glider separately. Since now, even though the karts do still have variable stats, we don't have the ability to mix and match different stats overall for each individual part, making it a lot simpler for newcomers. A huge change between Mario Kart World and Mario Kart 8 is not having anti-gravity in Mario Kart World, but you'd be forgiven if you thought there was, since we're still able to drive on walls in this new game. It's just we're not going to be driving on the ceiling while you listen to the great music of Electrodrome. Well, there's got to be some reason still to play the old game. Mario Kart World has a bunch of new characters that have joined the roster, but weirdly, it's missing some notable ones. Yeah, you can't actually play with your Mii racers in Mario Kart World anymore, which I'm fine with. I already know I'm a bad driver, I don't need to see it reinforced in the game. With the bigger roster of Mario Kart World, it makes sense that now we've got 24 racers per race, as opposed to the 12 per race that we had in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which was in and of itself a huge change considering earlier games in the series had only 8 characters at once. And because we got a whole lot more placements in the race, it also means that the points that you get for scoring different places have changed a lot too. Now in both games, you're going to end up with 15 points if you end up in first place, 12 in second, 10 in third, that's all the same. But then once you start to get in fourth and beyond, you can actually see that points double up for different places in Mario Kart World. So both fourth and fifth place get 9 points, sixth and seventh get 8, and so on. So if you're not scoring right in Mario Kart World, then there is still an option to make your comeback. And if you want to split up the 24 different races in Mario Kart World into teams, now our teams can go up to 4 teams of 6, as opposed to the prior option of only 2 teams of 6 in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Look, whatever team doesn't have pink, gold, peach on, that's the one I'm picking. If you've seen all the advertisements surrounding Mario Kart World, then you've definitely come across the free roam mode. And for good reason. It's one of the things that this game has that none of the other games in the series have had yet to date. I mean, it's the whole reason it has the world name in its title. And now with the ability to drive wherever and whenever on any track that we want, you get to see this game a lot more than in the past when Lakitu would turn you around if you just got a little off course. And now with the ability to explore all these tracks, it's a good thing that Mario Kart World offers in the photo mode. Weirdly enough, this wasn't in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Although you'd be forgiven if you thought that it was, because we were able to replay footage after races. I mean, that's basically the same thing, except now we can move the camera around a lot more akin to something like Odyssey, which will be great for any YouTubers that want to get a couple shots in. Just add in a red arrow and you're good. Mario Kart World's 24 characters per race seems like a lot, but it's a lot more manageable when you play in the Knockout Tour mode. Since with this, we now have a way to do proper knockout tournaments amongst a whole bunch of different racers. Simply put, if you don't make it in the top percentile, then you're not making it to the next race, which can very quickly get through all those big numbers on the track. One item that's making its debut in Mario Kart World is that if you find one of these purple crystal ball items, then that'll allow you to summon Kamek, who not only summons a whole bunch of Mario baddies onto the track, anything from charging chucks to dry bones and so on, but even turns the racers into these different enemies. So if you see someone who looks like a nabbit, you know why. An item new in Mario Kart World that we didn't see in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the coin shell. Now this is a golden shell that once you throw it forward, it'll leave a trail of coins in its wake. But be careful, because if you throw it out, these can be collected by anyone, not just the user. And then after a short time, it'll explode, leaving behind a circle of coins. Now worth noting is that a similar item did show up in one of the arcade games, but was it in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? No. And instead, the exclusive item that we saw over there was obviously the 8 things of items, which would spawn 8 different items surrounding your car. Now they don't surround our car, and we don't got 8, considering this is the 10th game in the series. Maybe 11th if you let Nintendo count. In the past, Mario Kart games have let us use a fire flower, but now we can use an ice flower as well, which when you use this, lets us set up multiple different projectiles that spin out enemies that get hit. Not that uncommon common from the Fire Flower. Also, what we'll get to see in Mario Kart World is an item that returns from Tour, as well as the different arcade games, the hammer, which when you use this item, it'll throw out several different hammers that flip out different players. And because the hammers stay in the track when they land, this honestly seems pretty overpowered. You get to throw it in an arc like so, and deal with quite a lot of the competition that was right in front of you previously. In Mario Kart World, we see the return of the Mega Mushroom item from Mario Kart Wii, which when we get it, it works basically the same. Lets us grow big and squash the other players that are around us. And perhaps more importantly on some of these more obstacle-ridden races, is that we can use it to knock aside the different NPC vehicles. So if you're not a fan of traffic, maybe just pop one of these. Though what I find particularly funny is that if you meet another mega-sized racer, the two of you just nudge into each other like normal. While the feather is technically a returning item, we do see in Mario Kart World that we can finally use it outside of battle mode, which is where we previously only used it in Mario Kart 8. And much like how we're familiar with getting only coins when you're in the front, this is one of those things that you're probably only going to get as a common item when you're near the front of the pack. The feather gives you a boost and lets you do a little jump up like so. Apparently light as a feather means light on content too. Go figure. Another returning thing from Tour is the coin box item, which when you spam the button to use this, it'll give you a whole bunch of different coins. But it also can leave some behind you, so don't try to power up your enemies while you're at it. Rain is nothing new to Mario Kart. I mean, we've seen it in Neo Bowser City, but now in Mario Kart World, we can see dynamic weather effects, which these not only add a lot of visual intrigue to the tracks, but they also can vary how different surfaces feel. And it's not just the weather that's changing too, because the time of day is now going to be changing in Mario Kart World as well. And now, instead of having a set time in the day set for each track, now when we're driving around, we'll get to see it actually shift with the different times, which makes sense considering that when you route through the different courses across the world map, this could be at a different time than the last time you raced through it. It helps to keep things fresh, even if the tracks are staying the same. In the past, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was one of the best looking games that came out on the Switch, considering it was one of the best looking games that came out on the Wii U. But now looking at it compared to Mario Kart World, it's a huge difference, folks. And according to Digital Foundry, Mario Kart World can run at 1440p at 60 FPS, when compared to the 1080p 60 FPS that we saw on the Switch 1. And you can see the comparison when we put them side by side without scaling them. You got a lot more pixels to see your friend in the rearview mirror when you pass the finish line. Bullet bills are one of the most overpowered items in Mario Kart, but now in Mario Kart World, they weirdly got a debuff. Considering now that when you hit another player, it'll actually not wipe them out, but instead it actually seems to knock the other racers to the side, which if it helps to balance some of the item smuggling, I'm happy for it. In Mario Kart World, whenever you use the Super Horn item, it'll now display a large and hard to miss beep text that comes out as onomatopoeia, but it'll only be visible to the other racers, since as currently, it doesn't seem to be visible to the user itself. And that's not the only bit of visual flair that we're now seeing getting added into Mario Kart World. Considering here, you can see how the blue shell gives off the blue kaboom text when it explodes, and above all will make a yellow with black outline that says boom. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, whoever was in the lead when you were racing online would be shown in the lobby wearing a crown, but now in Mario Kart World, we can actually see that the racer gets a crown to wear inside of the game. So even though the Miis aren't going to be wearing it anymore, it is pretty cute to get to see it on all the different characters. When Mario Kart 8 Deluxe launched, it had 40 characters overall, with 8 joining just in the DLC. But to put that in perspective, Mario Kart World has over 50 different ones that we can count from the intro footage, and a whole lot of variant costumes as well, which unfortunately also take up slots on the character select screen. 8 Deluxe had it figured out. You click on a character, and then you would see all the different colors and costumes. World has them split up all differently for some reason, which makes it a lot more of a pain to navigate. What's with Nintendo and bad UIs lately? Tears of the Kingdom in this, go figure. Hey, it's a good thing the characters look good though. And speaking of the characters looking good, one of the first things you'll notice in this game is how huge of a redesign there has been between the two different games. Take Donkey Kong for instance. Now he's got an entirely different look that matches a lot closer to how he looked in the past, all the way back to the old arcade design. And he isn't the only one. Mario's back in his signature shape. We got Boo over here with the eyebrow added in, and honestly the characters just look a lot more cartoony than they did in the past, which if that's the visual flair that they're going for, I think it looks great. Everything's gonna feel weird when it's new, but change can clearly be for the better, and I think this is one of the cases where I think we'll look back and say that it was. Back in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario only had 3 different poses when tricking on a cart, and then 3 different ones when he was on a bike. But now in World, if you watch Mario closely, you can see that there's a whole slew of new poses and tricks that he does with the cart. We've got barrel rolls, backflips, forward flips, upside down facing the camera, horizontal to this way, and even these different spins as well, which I think if they were redesigning the characters to show off more personality functionality, this definitely fits with that as well. In earlier games, the coin count was capped at 10 coins. But now, probably with how many coin items we've had added in, Mario Kart World lets us get up to 20 in one race. I guess traveling over the world is pretty expensive. With Battle Mode returning to Mario Kart World, it's actually had another feature return as well. Look here in Balloon Battle. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it was actually based off of a system where you would rack up different points for eliminating people's balloons. But now in World, you actually get eliminated when you run out of the balloons, which I think is a welcome return for those of us who liked Battle Mode back on things like the GameCube. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we have different distinct locations where each of our different Battle Mode arenas take place. But now that we've got the open world of Mario Kart World, it actually just happens somewhere else in the overworld map, just fenced off. You can see an example of that here with the Big Donut map, since that same location is briefly driven over during the Lightning Cup. You can see it right here between Toad Factory and Bowser's Castle, which also means it's the first time that a battle course has actually appeared in a Grand Prix. While we are still able to trick off of different ramps, jumps, and bounce pads, it's now also possible to bounce and trick off the head of other racers. You can see here when Mario does it off the head of a Goomba, which seems disrespectful, but Mario's done a lot worse by stepping on Goombas, so maybe this is letting him off easy. When you charge and release the drift button while driving on a flat ground, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe does nothing. But now it'll let us perform a charge jump in Mario Kart World. But considering it's not that much of an increase of speed, it might still be worthwhile to still charge up and sneak mini turbos where you can. One of the baffling features not returning in Mario Kart World is the lack of 200cc mode. Now granted, the game's director does say that this could be added in a later update, but currently there's no higher cc vehicles than 150cc. But considering that 200cc in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was actually closer to 415cc if you proportion it out, I can see why that might have been a little bit too much for a lot of people to grasp when they're going into this new style. And with that, folks, YouTube predicts that you might like this video. So see if they're right, and I'll see you soon.